position is in terms of Vice President Biden receiving security briefings and what the importance of that is.
Yeah, so during the entire campaign since this past summer, Joe Biden and President Trump, who always receives it, have received intelligence briefings every day. That's once you get past the convention time, both candidates receive that because you don't know who is going to be the president. So that's continued out throughout the campaign. That's now stopped for Joe Biden. I think we should continue that because we still don't know who the president's going to be at this point. And so we should be in the same posture that we were in throughout the whole campaign, with both of them receiving briefings as they're both trying to be able to prepare and then allow the process to be able to go through right now. Because at this point, there are a lot of questions about a lot of states. I completely trust the president trying to be able to push some of these issues. There are unresolved issues that we find in multiple states. We don't know what the quantities are yet. People have said, you know, it may be a big number, maybe a small number. We don't know yet, but we know there are issues. So allow the legal process to go through, allow the hand recount to happen in Georgia. And once we get all past that, then we'll know who the actual winner is. But at this point, we don't know. So both sides should be receiving briefings just like they were before.
You said yesterday that you would get involved if the decision wasn't
Yeah.
made on that by Friday. So what would involvement on your part look
So
like there?
I think a lot of people have made a lot about that. GSA has a beginning point of when they could certify and start making decisions about whoever is in the electoral process and the decision of that. The earliest they could do that is Friday, is tomorrow. That's the earliest they can do that. I assume they're going to choose not to do that. I'd be shocked if they jumped in to be able to certify it, especially since every state is still trying to be able to figure out how to be able to certify their own election on this. So they'll then set a timetable of what they're going to do. I want to know what's their process and how they're going to try to make that decision. Bill Clinton allowed Gore and Bush both to receive intel briefings, but Clinton held that for a long time and didn't do it immediately, and the 9/11 Commission later came back and said, hey, that was a mistake. Both of them should have been getting access to that. So for me, this is just an issue of saying, let's learn the lesson of 2000, and let's make sure that both sides are prepared.
So you'll be in touch with GSA directly then on Friday?
Yeah,
Or how would that work for you?
I'll reach out to GSA. GSA has to make their decision on what they're going to do. Then my follow-up with GSA is going to be how are they going to make the process, how are they going to make the decision, what are the metrics they're going to go for to be able to walk through the process on this.
So you expect to share an update on Friday on what you hear back from the GSA?
I doubt I will. I wasn't planning to before, but it's something that I track down just because I'm on a committee of jurisdiction. It's my basic oversight that I do for all the different agencies to determine you have a deadline that you just hit and passed. What's your process? What are your steps to be able to actually make the decision? But I wasn't planning on releasing any statements. That's my own oversight.
Senator, can I ask you, with coronavirus cases increasing, hospitalizations increasing, potential new lockdowns across the country, do you think the relief package, if there is one in the lame duck, should be at the $500 billion mark that was discussed in October, or should it be something bigger, plus with the HEALS Act of $1.1 trillion that you guys put out?
Yes, there's a lot of conversation about how big should the number be based on the number of virus cases. That's not the question. It's what is needed to actually accomplish this. Vaccine distribution is needed. Increased testing is needed, increased money for schools is needed, increased money for personal protective equipment is needed, help for small businesses is needed, help for nonprofits who are helping people in their very vulnerable liability protections. Those are all things that are needed. We put all that in place and said that's about $500 billion, which is an enormous size of a bill. Now, if there are additional items that other people are saying, okay, things have changed in the last 2 months since we put that out, there's going to be additional dollars needed for this XYZ. Let's look at it to be able to examine it. But when you start with a number and say we want to be able to do all these tax changes, all this kind of stuff, that doesn't solve the issue. The first thing that solves the issue is vaccines and testing.
What about the airlines? Do they need more help, you think?
The airlines are going to need some assistance, but quite frankly, there are going to be several businesses that are going to need assistance in this process. So it's not just airline specific in that, but they're one of several that are going to need help, that we need them to thrive in 2021 and 2022. And if they can't make it through this, then they're not going to be able to thrive. So if you're a bus company that does a charter bus company, you've had a really difficult year because no one's chartering you. There will be next year. We're going to get through this, but we're going to need some of these companies to still be alive to be able to do that. So it's stopgap help to be able to get through it for not just airlines, but for other companies as well.
A follow-up on the GSA, how difficult is it to trigger these briefings for Biden if President Trump isn't cooperating?
That is his decision on that, on what actually happens, and I'll actually walk through the process and get that from GSA in the days ahead.
What have you heard from your colleagues after expressing these concerns?
I made this comment last night, and it all kind of blew up here, and I think some individuals in the media made it more than it was. I was simply saying People need to still get intel briefings the same as they had before because we don't know who the winner is. Some people interpreted that entirely different than how I actually said it. But my main focus is to be able to just lay that out there. So I've not had a lot of opportunity because we just had a vote, and I'm now late running into lunch to be able to connect with them there. So anything else?
Thanks.
Sure,
First,
thanks, Sean.
you can tell me, do you think that Vice President Biden should be receiving security briefings?
I think we ought to finish going through the process. Let's all remember 2 years ago, Chuck Schumer wouldn't let me come to orientation, do anything until I went through the recount. 2 recounts, actually. I think we ought to finish. Let's finish counting the votes, and there'll be plenty of time.
Does it strike you as a risk to security at all?
No.
No. Can you tell us at all about what it was like being in Georgia yesterday and what your attitude towards that race is right now? How do you think it's going?
I wasn't there yesterday. I'm going tomorrow.
Apologies.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be there tomorrow. But look, Chuck Schumer said what he really believes. He said first they're going to take Georgia, then they're going to change this country. They're going to change America. And what their changes are bad things for this country. They, one, socialism. 2, they want to pack the Supreme Court, which will impact our religious freedom and our Second Amendment rights. They want Medicare for all, which is going to stop private health insurance for 150 million Americans. They want the Green New Deal, which will, cost $100 trillion and devastate our economy. So that's what he wants. David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler are great candidates. They're going to win in the first week of January. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they win.
How likely do you think a Republican-led Senate could confirm Bernie Sanders as labor secretary? He says he wants a job. He was open to it.
Well, we're gonna, we'll go through and we'll vet everybody. I mean, what's fascinating is that if you look at the last 4 years, the Democrats have never allowed the Trump administration, I don't think, ever to fully staff their agencies at all. And now watch it as soon as when this is over. If Biden won, that's what all they're going to talk about is, oh, don't be obstructionist. So it's going to be fascinating.
And what does it say that it seems like President Trump still has a lot of power here right now in this lane, and with this potential, I know some of you we're waiting for election results, but there seems to be a lot of power that he has in this lame duck session coming up.
He's president until January 20th, and so he ought to continue, doing his job.
And do you have any concerns with what's going on through the Defense Department right now, with Mark Esper leaving, a lot of top level members leaving, and some coming in who are more hawkish in their views in Iran and leaving Afghanistan?
Well, the president gets to pick his team. I have a good relationship with Mark Esper, and I'm on the Armed Services Committee, and we've got to make sure we have a lethal military, and we ought to be always careful how we use it.
And so is that, but do you think, are there any concerns about that replacement just for 2 months, all these top level people being shifted out?
No.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
I want to know if you think Vice President Biden should be receiving security briefings and intel briefings.
Oh, he always done that before, haven't we?
Yeah, but he's not getting them right now because the GSA hasn't certified the election. What do you,
Well, there you go. Well, that'll come. But with the Vice President Biden, he's been through this before, and so I think he has, and he's putting together his team. We'll see how this plays out. You just have to let it play out. Everybody's getting all wound up. I don't think that's really necessary because sooner or later it's going to be determined, and then we have to come together.
do you think it poses a security risk right now that he's not getting this information?
No. I think if we had a national security risk, why, of course, everybody would get briefings of the appropriate committees and so on and so forth. So I think we'll be all right.
And then Senator Sanders and Senator Warren, to some extent, have expressed some interest in serving in Vice President Biden's cabinet. Do you think they'd be a good fit in those roles?
That's up to Joe.
Thanks, Senator.
Which one's yours?
Champions, the world champions.
Oh, okay. Well, that works.
Oh
here.
yeah, I got the lanyard too.
Oh, you did?
Oh, I'm logged. It's the first
Jason's-
time in 32 years.
You know, I always thought that this year was gonna be a great year to just go on down and to see some games and so
Oh,
forth.
yeah.
It's disappointing when you can't
I mean,
do that.
and Senator Thune's a huge Dodgers fan, too.
So, you know, I'm a Yankees fan.
Oh, right.
I'm a Yankees fan, so, you know.
So you guys split it in the middle, half
Oh,
in
yeah.
the West and half in
But
the East.
we're both Green Bay Packers fans.
Oh.
So, you know, gotta have that kind of stuff.
Senator, can I ask you, would you mind step into the mic for a second? On a less fun
Depends
note.
on what your question is.
On a less fun note.
We got ladies first.
Do you believe that Vice President Biden should be receiving security briefings?
I do think they're going to have to work that out in very short order. Look, one of these two men will be the President of the United States after the election results have come in. And I think at this point, just as a matter of protecting our nation's interests, I do think that both the President and his competition here, Vice President Biden, should have access to those classified reports.
Is it a security risk if Biden isn't getting that kind of access right now?
I don't think it's a security risk right now, but I think should we need a transition in the future, this would simplify that transition and it would provide them with more information to make a smoother transition. We've got time yet, but I do think they're going to have to work out that specific issue in short order.
And Senator Sanders appeared to be open to serving in a potential President Biden administration in his cabinet. Do you think with the Republican majority in the Senate that he would be able to be confirmed?
I think it would be a challenge.
Why would you think it would be a challenge?
How long have you been in Washington, D.C.? Look, we want businesses to be able to thrive. We recognize the need for labor to be a part of those discussions. But once again, I think you need someone that can work with both sides on specific areas of issue. Personally, Bernie's a friend, but most certainly I think he's going to be significantly different in his opinion about what a labor secretary should do than a lot of the members in the United States Senate think is appropriate.
Thank you very
You
much.
bet.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Go Dodgers, not the Yankees.